Undeceptions podcast.
Hey, John Dixon here. Next week, we're going to be kicking off Season 12 of Undeceptions with an episode on Augustine. Until then, here's a single. In modern psychology, the most compelling exploration of persuasion I've ever come across is by Jonathan Haidt. The book is called The Righteous Mind. It came out way back in 2012, but it continues to exert an influence. Haidt is an evolutionary social psychologist from New York University. And this book, The Righteous Mind, is an account of the last 30 years of psychological research into how we form and defend our beliefs, whether beliefs about politics, religion, ethics, even science. Study after study shows that we tend to make up our minds intuitively and only afterwards prop up our positions with rational argumentation. So rationality, he says, plays this backup role, giving permission to our beliefs when we want to believe something, granting license to our skepticism when we don't want to believe. Here's a quotation from page 107. Reasoning can take us to almost any conclusion we want to reach, because we ask, can I believe it, when we want to believe something, but must I believe it when we don't want to believe? The answer is almost always yes to the first question and no to the second. Haidt offers an analogy. It's a rider on an elephant. The elephant is our intuitive cognition. It's our deep gut feeling about stuff. And the rider is our rational cognition. Here's Haidt again. If you want to change someone's mind about a moral or political issue, talk to the elephant first. If you ask people to believe something that violates their intuitions, they will devote their efforts to finding an escape hatch, a reason to doubt your argument or conclusion. They will almost always succeed. That's page 59. And the thing is, Haidt points out that it cuts all ways. He says it's true of conservatives in the social psychological studies that they find, and progressives. It's true of fundamentalist religious believers, and it's true of skeptics. It's true of the educated and those who aren't educated. Indeed, one of the other really interesting findings in this book is that high IQ, high intelligence, only makes it easier for people to rationalize what they believe. People with high IQs aren't necessarily better at ascertaining true beliefs, but they are better at rationalizing their existing beliefs. Haidt points to an article by Perkins, Faraday, and Bushy from 1991 titled Everyday Reasoning and the Roots of Intelligence in an academic book called Informal Reasoning and Education. Anyway, you can track that down if you want. Haidt writes about this. The findings get more disturbing. Perkins found that IQ was by far the biggest predictor of how well people argued, but it predicted only the number of my-side arguments. Smart people make really good lawyers and press secretaries, but they are no better than others at finding reasons on the other side. Perkins concluded that people invest their IQ in buttressing their own case rather than in exploring the entire issue more fully and even-handedly. Intelligence doesn't mean a person is more likely to arrive at the truth. It just means you're more likely to convince yourself and others that your view is the truth. I find this really interesting and confronting. And I think atheists have to be especially careful here. Because, as I'm often reminded by skeptics, they score higher on IQ tests, on average, than do religious people, on average. Now, this is based on a famous study by Helmut Nyborg. The article is called The Intelligence-Religiosity Nexus, a representative study of white adolescent Americans. And it's in the journal Intelligence, number 37, if you want to go track that down. But the thing is, in the article, it's revealed that on average, atheists have higher IQs than religious people. Now, this is often thrown at religious people as some kind of, proof that smart people are atheists and dumb people are religious and so on. But of course, according to the psychological studies, it might just mean that atheists are better at rationalizing God away, better at buttressing their own view, no better at arriving at true information. But before I get on my believing high horse, there's another detail from this famous study. It's true, on average, atheists have higher IQs than the religious, broadly understood. But the study also breaks down the cohorts. It drills into the data. And it turns out the two cohorts with the highest on average IQs aren't atheists, but Jews and Anglicans. Yes, Anglicans. And as an Anglican, I might be tempted to make something of that point. But it might just mean that we Anglicans are good at rationalizing our beliefs. Lord have mercy. In the end, I think there's probably only one path to true knowledge. And it's one that Jonathan Haidt hints at several times. It's humility. A humble approach to myself and others and the world out there is maybe the only way not to be captive to my own rationalizations, not to be captive to my own intuitions and feelings, but somehow to look up at the world with an openness and a softness that leads me to the truth. I'm reminded of a biblical statement that ties this all up in a pretty neat bow. Proverbs 11:2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom.
Undeceptions podcast.